Hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to the EKN Debrief. It is episode 146. It is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. We are into March Madness as the United States Pro Kart Series opened up its 2025 season at the Daytona Super Grand Prix held inside the Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. And I'm David Cole, joined by Nate Dean, and it was an exciting opening weekend for the series and the championship, which will be going 4 rounds this year, beginning with the inaugural trip inside the World Center of Racing. And in this show, the debrief, it is presented by Franklin Motorsports. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and they can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. They specialize in IAME engines, Tillett seats, and of course, their championship-winning Merlin chassis. They've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for years, from providing a helping hand on a weekday test outing or at a club event to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. So, Nate, we got to travel to Daytona Beach, Florida for the inaugural USPKS Daytona Super Grand Prix to kick off the 13th season of the championship. And it was a warm but windy weekend in Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really cool way to start off the 2025 season. Of course, their first visit to Daytona International Speedway, one of the few series to actually make a visit to the kart track that aren't what we're accustomed to with like WKA Kart Week and of course, EKN South going there last year. So really only the third series in recent memory to go here. It was a new track for a lot of drivers. It presented some challenges, some new faces at the front of the field that had a little bit more experience than the rest of the pack. So ultimately made for a fun weekend of racing and definitely a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it was a new factor. I think that was kind of the overall theme of the weekend. A new season, a new racetrack for a lot of people, a new location being in Daytona Beach, where a lot of the people, I would say probably over 50% of the people had never been there before. In terms of those actually racing on the weekend, obviously there was a lot of those that were in the paddock that had raced before, won before at Daytona. But I would say maybe even closer to 75%. Nate, where do you kind of gauge the percentage of the paddock of the actual racers who raced on the weekend, the 218? We'll get into that by the numbers, but what would you say about the percentage was that they'd never been to Daytona?
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to look at if we ever got those numbers, but I know a lot of drivers at least in the senior ranks were saying like I haven't been here since like cadet or junior racing. There are some that have had a lot of experience running WK Kart Week, and when they were running their classes, as we'll get to in the class breakdown, it was pretty obvious who has experience here, especially on the repave. But like you were saying, it's just the new factor for everyone, and it just put everyone at a bit of a reset and made things more interesting.
Yeah, and the weather wasn't exactly perfect. It was sunny and warm Thursday through Saturday. A bit of an overcast on Sunday, as there was a weather system that was rolling through. I think it started raining about 5 o'clock. So it was good that United States Pro Kart Series put the schedule ahead to get done early. I think we were done on track before noon and had the podiums like 1:30 inside the Daytona drivers meeting area. So that was good. But, the one thing that was common was everybody's complaining about the winds, both, I think, mostly Saturday and Sunday. I don't think we quite had windy weather on Friday, but that was kind of the complaint because the paddock paddock lanes for drivers to push their carts up into the grid and back to their pits, not paved. So the strong winds coming from the south, blowing that up through all the tents and onto the racetrack. I think that was the kind of the common complaint for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And all that dust getting onto the racetrack made things difficult, especially for leading drivers of packs. I think Brandon Jarsakrak was explaining it to me of like, it's just, you're the snowplow. If you're the first person on track, it doesn't matter if there's 50 carts on track, you're going to be pushing away all this dust and grit, and you're going to be slower than the drivers behind because they're now getting a cleaner race surface. So it made it more difficult for drivers to be able to get away from the pack with that just little bit of less grip than the leaders of packs were having to deal with. But yeah, it was really tricky conditions throughout the weekend.
And speaking of packs, we had some good packs in terms of numbers for the 7 IAME categories racing on the weekend, and are by the numbers. A total of 218 entries for the 7 categories that were competing. The largest going to KA100 Senior with 52. Next to that was KA100 Junior at 48. So again, the KA categories kind of showing the way with 100 drivers in total in those 2 categories alone. So that's big numbers for that. They did run the ABCD heat format, but kept everybody together for the main events. So no B mains on the weekend, but that still could be a possibility, say when we get to Trackhouse, when we get to Road America, and you never know for Newcastle. It always turns up big numbers as well too. So, but with a big racetrack like that, they could run as many as they want typically. But that was the one thing about having those 2 categories, Nate, in the ABCD format. The heat races weren't as bad, they gave, there was a lot of room to give because there wasn't the all 52 or all 48 drivers out on the racetrack. So I think the heat races went very well in those 2 categories being split up.
Yeah, absolutely. The heat races weren't as bad as physical as what we saw in the finals because, of course, Daytona is just over a half a mile track. It's like we were explaining all weekend. It is the bull ring that we have on the calendar this year. Last year it was Dousman. This year it's Daytona, and very confined track at some spots, made for some difficult racing, difficult passing, but again, like we said, it was just a new challenge for these drivers, and the contrast that we'll see compared to the track surface here and other places should make out for a fairly interesting season, especially with us going back to Road America. You're getting the contrast of a ultra grippy surface here, and then the absolutely no grip sliding around we're going to get at Road America.
Yeah, big numbers in Micro Swift and Mini Swift, a combined 64, 34 in Micro Swift, and 30 in the Mini category. Good solid number to start the year for X30 Junior, 22 in total. It actually surpassed the X30 Pro category for the first time in a long time. I want to say back to 2017 was maybe the last time we saw that happen, when we went to the Autobahn facility. Or the Kart circuit, Autobahn circuit in outside Chicago. So X30 Junior getting a good start. I would expect to see a few more X30 Pros later in the year. We'll see how that transpires, especially when we get to Trackhouse Motorplex next, I guess in May. Yeah, so not next month, but next month. And then 13 in K100 Masters, not the largest field, but really solid in terms of competitor and competition. We saw a lot of jostling for position all weekend long in that division, and we hope to see more drivers again when we get to Trackhouse, Road America, and Newcastle in that division as well. So again, a good way to start the year off, over 200 again, once again for USPKS. It's actually larger than the last 3 events of last year. So a good way to start the year off with 3 more races to go. And with that, let's head into our first commercial break. When we return, we'll talk about the Paddock Pass and some news and notes surrounding Daytona International Speedway and the opening round of the USPKS.
What brand is known around the world for its innovation and success? It is Sodi Kart. The Sodi brand returned in full force during the 2023 season thanks to the new exclusive importer, the Karting Distribution, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Sodi Kart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from mini karts to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has expanded its dealer network over the last year, bringing the Sodi brand to several local clubs and regional programs. The Sodi Racing USA by PK Sports is the official race team, producing many victories in different levels across the board. And the new Pro Race Academy is designed to cater to the next generation of motor racing, helping boys and girls aiming to make their mark. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about Sodi Kart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodi Kart, the world leader in the karting industry. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 chassis with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and the Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the rookie, junior, senior, heavy, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for the season include the Ignite Majors that begin with the annual trip to the Daytona International Speedway as part of the WKA Daytona Kart Week, running in both the sprint and road racing events. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the regionally based Ignite Challenge, featuring 5 iconic facilities. Local club programs have also been established in states all across the country, Idaho to Texas, Nebraska to New York, with more tracks and clubs joining the Ignite Karting program. Be part of fast, fun, and great memories with Margay Racing at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite Kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and onto the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion.
Welcome back to our EKN Debrief, episode 146, as we are recapping the 2025 United States Pro Kart Series Daytona Super Grand Prix, and this show presented by Franklin Motorsports. I'm David Cole, joined by Nate Dean, as we are getting into our Paddock Pass, presented by Rollison Performance Group. At the Rollison Performance Group, we strive for the ultimate success. We're more than just an arrive and drive race team with countless wins on the national and regional level. Our focus is on complete driver development, and that's where the success is fueled. We combine one-on-one coaching, on-track instruction, and intensive data debriefing with unparalleled kart and engine prep. Our program will help you raise your game. We'll take you to the next level. If that's your goal, RPG needs to be your next move. Experience the Rollison difference. So Nate, the obviously the first topic, USPKS visits the World Center of Racing. Again, you've raced there inside the sprint track. I've raced on the big track. I know Thursday when I rolled in, there's no better feeling than going through that turn 1 tunnel.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool feeling, whether you're racing on the big track or the small track for us. And then also to have Daytona pretty much to ourselves all weekend. The only on-track action on the big track was some tours. Usually for Kart Week, you have the petty driving experience and then the enduro karts running on track. So it was kind of a different experience, for at least for me, for just us to be in the turn 3 kart track this weekend.
Yeah, it was funny watching instead of the 160 mile an hour supercarts going by on the bankings, it was the trams taking the tour of Daytona International Speedway, which I've never done. I've done a tram, I think, at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's, I think, the only racetrack I ever visited to do that. But the attendees certainly got to see karting, so a great little marketing program for karting in general. We know that karting's been at Daytona International Speedway since 1974. So hopefully, as we keep seeing more and more events going there, aside from WK Kart Week, we'll start seeing some more promotion of the sport through one of the most known motorsports facilities in the world. So one of the things we didn't touch on in the beginning, Nate, was the pavement. You said that a little bit. that was kind of the focal point for a lot of the drivers when you first started talking to everybody on Thursday and into Friday, was the surface being super smooth. Unfortunately, a lot of grip laid out on this new surface. Tell us what were some of the feedback you heard from drivers you talked to on the weekend.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers I talked to had experience on the old pavement that a lot of them had raced on before at WK Kart Week. Not a lot of positives, which is really unfortunate to hear, because obviously Daytona has put in a huge amount of effort to get this facility back up and to a modern level again. But it's just a lot of drivers were complaining about the Rhino liner at the mid corner, which is something that has been a discussion since at least in USPCast, since Dousman with the new section, and Ohio, that has been causing a little bit of issue. And to have that used throughout most of the track, it just added a ton of grip in places. Drivers were saying it's really hard to pass, so you have to use your bumper. You have to make a dive in there because people can stroll around the outside, and it doesn't make it very good racing, especially with the much grippier MG red tire that we've been running the past couple of years. So definitely room for improvement. I think a lot of drivers and teams were saying that obviously it's incredibly cool to be racing at Daytona. It's an awesome facility. It's just the track has a few improvements that need to be made.
Yeah, the sealer was the big focal point. There was also the lack of exit curbing coming on to the main straight there in the last corner, which kicked up a lot of dust, a lot of sand, made the track a little bit slippery as you move down the straightaway. Guys, as you said, were making a pass in turn one, and something we've seen many times because of the radius of the front straightaway. It's not straight. It's always turning. But the drivers going into the grass to make passes there, so making that corner a little bit slippery as well too. And then anytime somebody went off the racetrack, certainly made the track a lot slipperier. But again, we'd never been here in the month of March. It's always been December. I believe when Cup Karts went, it was Memorial Weekend, and the temperatures were over 100 degrees, but they weren't on the new surface quite yet. So again, all things new in terms of this weekend for the track, for the competitors, and for the series as well. So a lot to take in and a lot of notes being made regarding the weekend. On the weekend, we saw a couple drivers making debuts, one of them being Brandon Lemke to Speed Concepts Racing, and then Colin Lloyd joining Velocity Racing by Sodi USA. So, Nate, those are some big names making new homes for the 2025 season.
Yeah, absolutely. And not having the chance to talk with Colin and his first race with Velocity and Sodi USA, it should be interesting to see how that goes. Sodi has kind of been struggling a little bit in the senior categories and KA 100 of just having the consistency. Obviously, we've seen that the chassis is quick. Alan Isambard went on a tear at the start of the 2024 season, but I think it's just a thing of other teams have more drivers on them, that they're able to share more data and just be able to be consistently further up the field. But Colin is an incredibly talented driver, and he should be able to bring Sodi a few more podiums and wins this year. Talked more in depth with Brandon Lemke and his dad Bill about how they were taking the start of their Speed Concepts Racing campaign that will see them through the entirety of the 2025 season for the United States Pro Kart Series. Bill just saying Brandon was really nervous. He wanted to impress these guys. He wanted to do well on debut for the team, and it's a fair assessment for them. It's turned out well for Brandon, obviously qualifying on pole for KA 100 senior, and then kind of struggling a little bit throughout the weekend with just the driving style of other younger drivers compared to how he would race, and just talking a little bit about that. And he said he's just going to have to adapt his driving style throughout the year to be able to hold with these guys and to race them how they race him.
Yeah, he was certainly fast Thursday all day. And, a little bit of that was everybody caught back up. I think that was part of it too. But like you said, once racing started, it was a little bit different than just posting fast times on the weekend. But certainly that could be the combination to watch as the season goes on. But we'll have to wait and see. And then again, Lloyd, make sure you check out our article we published yesterday about T1DRacers.org, the organization that the Lloyd family has established to bring awareness to type 1 diabetes, as that is what was been diagnosed with Colin Lloyd years ago, and living with that disease, and how the struggles that comes with having that disease and becoming a race car driver as well. So make sure you go and check that out. One of the articles we did for the Paddock Pass was the Scott Skitchy Barnes from Bermuda going old school in Daytona. There in the back of a pickup truck with his cart and an easy up and some tools. So a really cool to see. Again, he lives in nearby on the coast of Florida. So drove over, made his USPKS debut. Nate, that's kind of what Daytona used to be with the Man Cup. A lot of people, driving their own trailers and own pickup trucks to compete inside the World Center of Racing. So it goes to show you still have the ability to do that at some of these major events.
Yeah, and absolutely. And then to be able to get on the podium for him as well, which we'll talk about more in the KA Masters breakdown, was cool for him to be able to prove that you can still just show up, not under a big team tent. You can just do it by yourself and show some decent pace like you did all weekend.
And no Thursday practice as well. So just dropped the cart off and got to get situated outside Franklin Motorsports tent. So got a little help from those guys as well too, in terms of storing the cart. But yeah, again, there were a lot of other, father and son combinations racing on the weekend, and some, other privateers. Of course, Eli Warren being the leader of the privateers. But again, it's great to see that, Lemke's were that last year, I think, for the most part, racing out of their own trailer and RV all season long last year. So it's always good to see that. And again, gets to the base of what karting is all about, and love to see that. But one driver who did not drive a pickup truck actually had to fly his way over from the UK, Caden Queen. He's kind of leading the British invasion of 2025 as he's set to partake the whole season here in the United States. Very similar to like what Joe Turney did a couple of years ago. But Caden Queen racing with Energy Courses America, looking to make an impact and looking to kind of bring his international stature up a little bit by competing here in the U.S. And he's certainly a driver we're going to be keeping an eye on after the winter programs down in Orlando for sure, Nate.
Yeah, absolutely. He's impressed a lot of us. Friend of EKN, Henry Bodette, was saying from the get-go, you have to watch out for this guy. He's the real deal. And he definitely proved himself throughout the Winter Series races. He's been incredibly competitive, like you said, leading that British invasion that we've had going on for the past couple of years. Used to be led by Joe Turney, but it seems like in 2025 that Kart Republic are really pushing for him to try and get a world title this year. So not as much U.S. appearances as obviously we would like and he would like, because we know how much he likes racing in the United States. So hope to see him for at least maybe one or two Pro Tour USPKS races throughout the season. But I think can speak for a lot of people within karting media and the karting paddock that Caden McQueen has been one of the most impressive drivers so far this year.
Yeah, so looking forward, talk to him about Daytona. He loved the atmosphere being inside Daytona International Speedway. Wasn't too keen on the racetrack itself, so maybe it didn't bring him back home to some of the tighter facilities he's raced at throughout the United Kingdom. So with that, let's head into our next commercial break. When we return, we'll dive in to the race report, starting with X30 Pro and K100 Senior.
CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and we're primed and ready for the 2022 season with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. The CRG KT5 is our new chassis for tag and shifter racing, and it's been designed specifically for the U.S. market. The KT5 features 30mm construction with a 32mm front loop to increase front grip. CRG's new VEN 13 brake system is cutting-edge technology with a master cylinder that allows for pressure regulation within the system. Drivers can customize brake pressure to their own requirements to improve feel and to avoid brake lockup. The Kart is finished with new KG 507, 508 bodywork that has refined aerodynamics and reduced weight. For cadet drivers, the 2022 CRG Black Mirror is already logging positive results to start the new season. This chassis will be making big waves in 2022. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. With 4-cycle racing enjoying consistent growth in North America, CRG's FS4 chassis is the ideal choice for racers in Briggs & Stratton competition. From pure racing to karting entertainment, many tracks, both indoor and outdoor, have made the switch to the CRG Centurion rental kart line. 5 different models for both gas-powered or electric engines can fit any track's needs for a new rental kart fleet. CRG Nordam has a full inventory of rental karts available for new and existing facilities. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com, and to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email us at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. The Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is where out-of-the-box ease and outstanding consistency meet to create legendary races. Briggs & Stratton's history of motorsports dates back to when the first engines came off the assembly line in the early 1900s. Their focus on the grassroots level continues to help build generations of racers. Since 2008, the Briggs & Stratton 206 has gained a following that has the engine powering the largest fields in North American karting today. From the club level track programs to traveling regional series and national events, Briggs & Stratton competition provides the most exciting racing in the sport. Engineered and hand-built exclusively for racing, every Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is power tested and serialized before it goes in the box. Karters can take that engine straight from the box to their kart and be on the podium at the end of race day. Be sure to follow Briggs & Stratton Racing on Facebook and through @RaceBriggs on Instagram. To learn more about the 206 engine or to find the North American dealer near you, head to briggsracing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing, what powers you?
And we are back with our race report here on the EKN Debrief, episode 146, breaking down the United States Pro Kart Series Daytona Super Grand Prix from the Daytona International Speedway. And this show presented by Franklin Motorsports. David Cole and Nate Dean bringing you our race report, which is presented by Parolin USA. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products. The brand is rich in history and success, dating back to the early 1990s throughout Europe. Today, Parolin is among the winningest brands in the United States and all around the world. Karters can head to the ParolinUSA.com website, where the entire chassis line and parts are available to you, with shipping available all across North America within 48 hours. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. Nate, let's begin with the X30 Pro presented by Rollison Performance Group, and the headline is
Norberg sweeps in Daytona.
Something we saw a lot last year, especially in the final 2 rounds of the USPKS, is Norberg on top of the podium in the X30 Pro category. This weekend was a complete sweep, so maximum amount of points for Ryan Norberg heading towards the 2025 championship. A 38.497 put him on the top of qualifying session, winning all 3 heat races to earn the pole position for the main event. Really, the only drama we saw, Nate, was probably the opening lap, 3rd corner of the main event. That was pretty much the only drama up front that we saw all weekend, where Paulie Massimino made a bold move, went all in, tried to go and put it to the inside in turn 3 to get by Norberg, but Norberg came down, shut the door, and a little bit of contact with Massimino's nose kind of getting stuck, or tire. It was kind of like rear bumper, front nose cone, right front tire kind of combination where it pushed basically Massimino off the racetrack as he couldn't turn the kart off into the grass, fell back to the 5th spot. And that was it, because Norberg ran away with the rest of the race, leading the rest of the way. And, it was kind of a smart move. You got to attack early on Ryan. It's something we saw Joe Turney do all throughout the Winter Series in Orlando. So I think it was a great move by Paulie.
Yeah, I mean, he had to do what he had to do at that point, and just didn't seem like there was enough commitment maybe there. I don't know, because it just seemed like it was the first half of that pass was such a late and bold move, and the second half just seemed like kind of backing out of it and not too sure what to do. But obviously Paulie's the better driver. He knows what he's doing behind the wheel more than me, just commenting what I saw. But it's unfortunate that was the only like real battle for up front throughout the weekend. But at the same time, you also just have to give a hats off to Ryan, who it has to be celebrated with how quick and just consistent he was all weekend throughout the opening round here. It was cool to see the further back pack fighting for the podium, and Kolar, Massimino, Mossman, and all those guys battling it out. But like I said, not a lot happening up front apart from Ryan Norberg.
Yeah, Paulie Massimino was able to work his way back up into the 2nd spot. Actually, Jacob Kohler actually waved him by, knowing Paulie certainly had the speed to try and catch up to Ryan. So kind of a sportsmanship move. So good to see Jacob Kohler kind of recognizing it, not something we saw in the junior races where, guys were slowing each other up, not being courteous, I guess, on racetracks. So Paulie did get up to 2nd, but didn't quite have the pace that Norberg did. And Norberg, talking to him during the weekend and after, the track reminded him of Ocala. Really, to be honest, it's a short racetrack. Yeah, there's more turns, but the lap times, are very similar to what we used to see in Ocala. So it kind of fit to his upbringing, because he was one of those Ocala GP drivers back in his early days, living in the Orlando area. So it was a solid performance by Ryan, adding another location win on his checklist, having never won at Daytona before. So went on to a 5-second margin of victory over Paulie Massimino. Frankie Mossman making his X30 senior or pro debut at USBKS, finishing in the 3rd spot. Jacob Kohler in the 4th spot. And then Finnegan Bailiff up to the 5th position on the Brill Art for TKG. So that was your top 5 on the weekend. So again, we'll probably see some more racers put in the challenge. Trackhouse is our next stop. We know Paulie's really fast there. Norberg's been fast there and won in the past. So a lot more passing opportunities certainly at Trackhouse as well too. So should be an interesting fight moving forward with those drivers in the top 5. Let's move over to KA100 Senior, presented by Brandon Jarzakrak Racing. And the headline is
Overbeck Storms back to claim Daytona victory.
Excitement, Nate. Come on, excitement. It was an amazing performance by James Overbeck, the 2024 Supercarts USA Pro Tour champion, race winner in Ohio at the USBKS last year. But it was Brandon Lemke, the former USBKS champion, who we just talked about in our Paddock Pass, setting fast time and qualifying a 39.846. But unfortunately, that would be the last time he ended up on the top spot, not able to win in any of the 3 heat races he was in. 2 of them were won by Paulie Massimino, winning the 1st and 3rd round of heat races for the A group. And then Overbeck winning 2 heat races. He won a 2nd heat and a 3rd heat. And then you had 2 other drivers picking up wins with Ty Fisher and senior rookie, I guess both senior rookies, Ty Fisher and Sebastian Garzone. So a little bit of a mix there. Massimino, Overback, probably the two drivers next to Lemke with the most experience in Daytona, and then some rookies coming up there to grab wins. So with that, it was Massimino and Overbeck on the front row. Christian Miles, another former winner in Daytona, alongside Brandon Lemke in row 2, and then Sebastian Garzone starting from P5. So that was your starting 5 to open up the main event with 52 drivers taking to the racetrack. Nate, if I recall, I don't think we saw too much contact, but a lot of jostling for position throughout the opening circuit, because it was a relatively clean lap, but drivers were off the racetrack, but nothing major up front, but a lot of jostling for position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some drivers dropping off tires here and there. Obviously, when you're trying to get 52 karts throughout the first couple of corners at Daytona, it's not always going to go well. From all the times I've driven there, I've been on the back end of that deal many of times. So it's a challenge in itself just to hold position in a field that big. And obviously there's going to be contact there where there's some, I think 2 or 3 rows back off the start, but really it was a fairly clean start, all things considered there.
Yeah, but as the opening lap continued, Overbeck got pushed back to the 10th spot, Massimino back to 5th. So we had early leaders of Christian Miles and Sebastian Garzone making their way up towards the front. Eventually, it would become Blake Nash, the California kid, and Paulie Massimino towards the front of the field. Eventually, Overback was able to work his way forward, get into the top 5, then get into 3rd, track down Nash and Massimino, and then took over the lead on lap 15. And that was it. That was it was clear cut and simple for James Overbeck. Nothing too crazy, as he was able to get away from both Blake Nash and Paulie Massimino, crossing the line for the victory by 2.315 seconds to earn his first victory of the season and second career in USPKS competition, with Massimino 2nd, Blake Nash 3rd, Sebastian Garzone in 4th, and then his Orsilon teammate Matteo Pappas in the 5th spot, joining him on the podium. So a strong run for Pappas, who's since moving up to the senior ranks, talking with Brandon Jarzakrak, and of course, Matteo's dad, Max Pappas. He's been really finding his niche in the senior ranks and getting quicker and quicker with each weekend out.
Yeah, absolutely. Matteo is one that we've been watching in the lower ranks throughout the past couple of years, and now doing incredibly well at senior on the national level is cool to see for Matteo. And yeah, we'll have to see if he'll most likely find a podium again throughout the 2025 season, but hopefully for him and the team, they'll be on the top step soon enough.
So it was an all OTK top 5 in KA senior. We had only 2 in the top 2 for X30 Pro, with Kart Republics finishing 3rd and 4th, and then Burl Art finishing in 5th for X30 Pro. With that, let's head into our next commercial break, and when we return, we'll recap the junior categories, KA 100 Junior and X30 Junior, after these messages.
All over the karting world, everyone knows OTK is the gold standard for quality and performance. In the United States, OTK USA is the source for all things OTK. 8 brands under the OTK USA banner are winning races and championships across the country in national programs like the Rock Cup USA Florida Winter Tour, the Challenge of the Americas, the SCUSA Pro Tour and Winter Series, the United States Pro Kart Series, and even more programs throughout the country. And OTK products are also front and center on the podium of club and regional races from coast to coast. Tony Kart, Cosmic, Prix, EOS, and Red Speed have been joined by the Gallard, LN Racing Kart, and CS55 brands. To learn more about a specific product line or to find the OTK USA dealer near you, visit otkusa.com. Specific chassis territories are still available, so kart shops interested in adding a winning component to their product lineups can contact OTK USA directly. OTK, the gold standard of karting. Motor mounts. They keep your engine attached to your chassis, right? The answer is, they're much more important than that. Your motor mount is critical in transferring 100% of the power from your engine through to your tires and the racetrack. You need this to get on the podium each and every time you race. Odenthal Racing Products is here for you, providing the best motor mounts on the karting market today, all designed to make sure you're using all the horsepower you pay for. Odenthal Racing Products is a family-owned and operated business with decades of karting experience in providing products with unmatched quality and value for our racing community. The Pro Series mount for 2-cycle engines, which is available in 0, 5, and 8-degree inclinations, provides a rigid structure to help keep vibration to a minimum without adding too much weight to your setup. The 4-cycle Easy Set system is one of the most popular mounts for the Briggs & Stratton 206 power plant. Multiple mounting holes provide the most adjustability depending on your chassis and seat placement. To ensure a tight fit to your chassis, our ORP wedge clamps get the job done, and they feature a number of design updates to provide a lower profile and lighter weight. The clamps are available from 28mm to 32mm in both standard and Euro style sizes. And now, Odenthal has also revolutionized the karting industry with its new Easy GP camera mounting system. Designed to mount anywhere on your chassis with 1 or 2 cameras, the ORP Easy GP camera mount is your solution to capture that onboard winning moment. Head to odenthalracing.com and find a dealer near you. Odenthal Racing Products, proudly made in the USA.
Welcome back to our EKN Debrief, episode 146, breaking down the United States Pro Kart Series Daytona Super Grand Prix. I'm David Cole, joined by Nate Dean in this show presented by Franklin Motorsports. We are into our Parolin USA race report, and up next is the KA100 Junior presented by BBS Racing Engines. Nate, the headline is
Salameo earns first USPKS victory.
very similar to what we saw with Ryan Norberg. Thiago Salameo, the Brazilian, just swept the KA junior category, even though there were 47 other drivers trying to contend for the victory. Theo was quickest in qualifying at 40.156 to set the fast time in the time session, and then went on to win convincingly all 3 heat races that he was in. The other 3 drivers to pick up heat wins, Brady Shad, Alexander Vanchev, are soon to be announced tomorrow or today, the February driver of the month for EKN. And then Isaac Malkit, the young junior driver, picking up a heat win. I believe he's won at Daytona in every single division possible. I think from kid kart all the way to senior. I think he won a senior Briggs race here in December, right? If I recall right, Nate, or no?
I believe he won 206 senior light.
There you go. So yeah, he's won at pretty much every level in karting at Daytona. So yeah, Chad, Vanchev, Malkit picking up the other heat race wins, with Salameo picking up the other 3. So of course he was on the pole position with Isaac Malkit on the outside of the front row. Travis Pettit and Canadian Nathan Dupuis filling up row 2 with Brady Chad in the in the 5th position. Heading into the main event, not very much action up front. Very similar, aside from that turn 3 action we saw in Next 30 Pro. There was none of that in KA100 Senior, as Thiago Salameo just ran away from the field on the opening circuit. So very good on cold tires. I believe they don't have new tires for KA Junior, correct? It was just the same set all weekend, if I recall correctly. I always forget this part.
I believe it might have been same set. I don't. I walked the KA Junior grid, so I should have known that, but I can't recall.
That's okay. Doesn't say on there. No, they do get new tires. So Mini Swift and Micro Swift are the only categories that run the same tire all weekend long, which is, I'm not quite sure I like that anymore, but we'll talk. That's another podcast for discussion, because I believe it was the KA Masters switched that up too. It was one set. So yeah. All right. We'll talk more about that later. But yeah, Salameo broke away from the field. Great on cold tires. Got probably out to what was probably a 2 to 3 second advantage early, and then eventually just kind of stretched out even more, driving away to a 4.7 margin of victory for his first in USPKS competition. But the race for second was pretty exciting. A lot of jostling for position, shuffling. Dupuis was up there. Malkit was up there. Eventually became Julian Rivera, the Orsilon drivers. It made it Orsilon 1-2. Coming away with the second position, while Nathan Dupuis ended up in the third spot. Pettit back into fourth, and then late in the going, Luis Fer Nunez, if I said that right, Luis Fer Nunez, the third Orsilon Tony Kart in the top 5 came all the way up from 6th, so it wasn't far, but it was Rivera who came up from the 10th position to end up in the second spot. So something about Orsilon Racing finding speed at Daytona for sure, Nate, as they came away with 3 in the top 5 for KA100 Junior.
Yeah, and obviously that's not where their story ends in the next couple of classes that we'll cover, but very, very impressive from Orsilon. There's not much else you can say apart from that. Just had an incredibly strong weekend, probably one of the strongest they've had in years at this point, and what a way for them to start off the PKS season.
So let's head into our X30 Junior presented by Speed Concepts Racing, and the headline is
Salomeo doubles up at Daytona.
So this was the second junior category run on the weekend, with KA Junior the second class out each time when we went through our class groups. The top qualifier was Alexander Vanchev, our February driver of the month. A 38.982 put him on top of the time charts. He was able to hold off Salomeo in the opening heat race. However, it was Salomeo picking up the wins in Heat 2 and Heat 3. And Nate, for much of the weekend, it was basically a 3-driver fight. It was Vanchev and Salomeo kind of battling, going back and forth. And then it was Ashton Woon, the junior rookie, was right there all weekend long, kind of on pace with both drivers, just kind of learning, taking notes, and kind of seeing what these two drivers were doing up front and trying to stay out of trouble. So it was really these 3 all weekend long, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They kind of ran away with it, and when any of the other drivers were brought into it, it was more because of them battling or just them hooking up a lap here or there, but just couldn't consistently hold with the pace that those 3 that you mentioned had held throughout the entirety of the weekend. It was fun to see those 3 go, and especially Ashton Woon, who was incredibly impressive for Speed Concepts Racing, with him moving up to the junior ranks this year, and especially moving up from a Mini Swift to an X30 is not an easy task. But all throughout 2024 and a little bit of 2023, he had been testing the X30 package, a Trackhouse Motorplex, throughout last year, and obviously getting accustomed to it. And it seems like all those laps have paid off with a very impressive weekend for him.
Yeah, only didn't pick up third it picked up third in the first, second in the second, and then got knocked out of the top 3 because of a bumper penalty in the final heat, but did end up starting third behind Salomeo and Vanchev, with Nathan Dupuis starting 4th and Edward Kennedy starting in the 5th spot. And it was the top 3 breaking away. Vanchev led, and they were able to break away from the second pack. But when Vanchev went defensive, I think it was like lap 6 or something like that, kind of bunched up that pack, brought the second group together. And I'm not quite sure what Vanchev was doing. He kind of was braking early, running defensive lines. Didn't look great, but it did collect a couple of people. I believe it was Edward Kennedy and Cole Medeiros, who got caught up in some of the bottleneck that was going on. So they were off track. Eventually, the top 3 broke away again. And then Salomeo went to the lead on lap 17, and that was the winning move, as he was able to hold off Vanchev and Woon for the victory by 3.9 seconds at the line. Woon was second for a time when Salomeo made his move on Vanchev, but eventually Vanchev getting by Woon, so demoting the junior rookie to the 3rd spot. A great drive for Sarah Bradley. She was involved, I believe it was Heat 3, Nate, that she was involved in a wreck that saw, I believe, Ethan Sky flip over in his cart.
Yeah, that was Sarah involved in that.
Yeah, so Sarah had a badly damaged cart. I might have been heat 2, I think it was, on Saturday. So she was able to bounce back, went from 9th to 4th on her Speed Concepts Racing Sodi cart, moving Nathan Dupuis back to the 5th position in his USPKS debut with Nash Motorsports. So 2 top 5s for Dupuis, 2 wins for Salomeo. Vanchev, not quite up into the top 5 in KA Junior, but still among the top junior drivers in the country thus far in 2025. So with that, let's head into our next commercial break. Return, we will have KA 100 Masters, Mini Swift, and Micro Swift.
It's a storied brand in karting, and it's got a new home in North America. Energy Course Americas is the official distributor for the Energy Course karting chassis and product line here in the US and Canada. The Energy Course brand was founded in 1997 out of passion and skill. Manufactured in Italy, Energy Course has gained national and international recognition with success in all different categories. Energy Course Americas offers an online store for the entire product line of the Energy Course brand, including complete racing packages, spare parts, race gear, clothing, and more, providing an excellent shopping experience. Race the brand that 9 of the 20 drivers currently in Formula One competed on during their karting careers. Visit energycourse.io to see the latest deals and to learn more about Energy Course Americas. Let decades of experience and success lead you to the top of the podium. Join Brandon Jarsacrack Racing as your race team at the sport's major events in the United States. Brandon Jarsacrack is a 4-time United States Pro Kart Series champion, along with a multi-time SuperKarts USA Pro Tour and WKA Manufacturers Cup Series race winner. Jarsacrack is ranked among one of the best from his generation to get behind the wheel of a racing kart. BJR provides full race team service and support at all USPKS, SCUSA, and Stars Championship Series events, along with trackside programs at the Trackhouse Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. Partnering with Mike Doty Racing, Brandon's team of driver coaches and mechanics are passionate for the sport, providing decades of experience both on the track and working with many of today's karting standouts and current motorsport stars. Brandon Jarsacrack Racing offers a full range of services, including kart preparation, driver coaching, and race event support for both 2-cycle and 4-cycle competitors. BJR is an official LN Racing Kart team with OTK USA and is an official offset sport race team. Contact them today to develop a program based around your needs. Head to BrandonJarsacrack.com to learn more.
Welcome back to the EKN Debrief and our race report as we are recapping the United States Pro Kart Series Daytona Super Grand Prix in this show presented by Franklin Motorsports. And again, our race report presented by Parolin USA. Let's dive into KA 100 Masters presented by Nash Motorsports. And the headline is
Renato Jader-David takes Daytona.
One of the top Masters drivers over the last decade, Renato Jader-David, picking up the fast time in qualifying at 40.975. He was able to pick up the opening heat race win ahead of USPKS winner Martin Stone, but it was Stone taking the victory in heat number 2 with RJD dropping to the second position. And ironically, after that second heat, Renato Jader-David changed engines, started from the back of the 13-driver field for heat number 3, but worked his way all the way up into the second spot. So didn't lose out a bunch, but was able to replace the motor that he felt was fading, something just not right with it, as Martin Stone picked up a second heat win to earn the pole position for the main event, with RJD starting on the outside of the front row. Paul Elefante starting in the third spot, Randy Klimek in fourth, and Brant Estes in the fifth position. The main event started poorly for Elefante. The engine would not run as they took the green flag. Unfortunately for him, he had to retire. So a possible podium finish taken away for Elefante. Up front, though, Stone was able to kind of break away as RJD kind of got shuffled up in the starting or the opening lap. But eventually, Renato David was able to run him down. And the top two drivers kind of swapped the lead multiple times over the second half of the race. But the winning move came on lap 22 when Renato was able to make a move just enough to slow up the pace of Stone, get a little bit of a gap, and ended up crossing the line first by just under 0.7 of a second. And what I believe is RJD's first USPKS victory. So he adds his name to the long list of drivers winning in the Masters division. It was Martin Stone in second. And then the drive of the race was from Scott Skitchy Barnes, who started in the 8th position, worked his way all the way up into the 3rd spot, battled with Scott Falcone there for a brief moment until Falcone spun in turn 1 while battling with Barnes. So he slipped down the order. Barnes went on to finish in the 3rd spot in his old school pickup truck race weekend, finishing ahead of Mundy Lauer in the Nash Motorsports EOS and Randy Klimek in the HDD Tony Kart for 5th. So, Nate, it was a great battle between the top two for sure. I think if Barnes would have had a better qualifying session, would have been able to run the heat races up front and start up front, could have been a 3-driver battle up front.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously, like we saw, Renato David and Martin Stone were just the class of the field all weekend long. And I think with that move that RJD did on Stone, it was just a culmination of the wins starting to pick up later on in the finals and more dust and debris getting put onto the track and not as many karts like we saw in K1 under senior or junior to move that out of the way. So when you do go offline, it really, really affected Martin Stone to the point where Renato made that move and it was just no coming back for him. So huge win for him. Unfortunate for Martin Stone, who just seemed like he was the driver to beat throughout that final until he started to fade and the kart started to look like a little stuck towards the midpoint of that race. A fun weekend for the Masters class. I think it goes a bit unloved by some in the karting paddock sometimes, but it's nice to see when it has these really fun and interesting to watch races. Quick side note and shout out to Randy Klimek on maiden USPKS podium on his first attempt for host driver development. Have to shout out the Minnesota natives every once in a while, so huge weekend for him.
No, it was really impressive. I mean, Mundy Lauer, Scott Skitchy Barnes, these are some of the top Masters drivers in the country. You know, of course, with Stone and Renato David up front as well, too. So to be able to stand on a podium with those guys, that's definitely the mark you want to set to, or the goal you want to achieve when you make your USPKS debut. So, yeah, a great drive by him. Definitely that's where I'd want to be if I was in the Masters class for sure, trying to battle up front and be part of the podium ceremonies at the end of the year or at the end of the day, especially when we got to go to Victory Lane there in Daytona International Speedway. So very cool for that. With that, let's head into Mini Swift presented by Sodi Racing USA. And the headline is
Francisco earns first in a photo finish.
Yeah, this category always produces great racing. We've seen it year in, year out, and there was no shortage of drivers in the mix all weekend long. We had Liam Nakawati picking up the fast time in qualifying with a 41.819, but it was Mr. Winter, Enzo Di Janeiro, who's been probably the highlight of the cadet categories throughout the winter months here in 2025. He came through to pick up all 3 wins in the heat races as Nakawati didn't have very good luck in the opening 2 heat races, but did finish second in the 3rd moto as it was Holden Myers picking up the runner-up spot in the opening 2 heats behind Di Janeiro. So as the field was set for the grid or for the main event, the grid looked like Di Janeiro and Myers on the front row, Maxwell Macha and Parker Ives from row 2, and then Jaden Francisco starting from P5. As the race began, it was Macha and Myers that went to the front and were kind of leading a group of 3, and then eventually became a group of 6 with De Janeiro joining the mix. There was a lot of jostling for position about the halfway point. And then on lap 15, it was De Janeiro and Myers making contact in turn 6. That sent them around and out of the running for the victory, allowing Maxwell Macha to take over the lead with Francisco following him through for second. So it was those two up front, and then it was Santiago Orleoli and Parker Ives as the other 2 drivers making up the second group. They basically ran that way up until the last lap. Macha went on defensive mode, running a very good defensive line, keeping Francisco at bay. But it wasn't until the last corner, Macha probably went to the dive on the inside a little bit too soon. But also, Nate, it was the early celebration as he was many feet away from the checkered flag and began celebrating. And as one thing we know, Nate, it's not a straight. It's a curving front line, I guess front straightaway, not straight at all. So you kind of have to keep your hands on the wheel. Not sure exactly if it was that or if it was just the amazing run that Jaden Francisco had coming out of the last corner as he went to the high side and was able to beat Macha to the line by just 19 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Maxwell. You just, in those tight races, you got to just keep your head down. I can certainly say that he's never going to make that mistake again, because to lose a race like that at Daytona was going to hurt for a while. And Daytona's weird like that. Obviously, we've been talking about the front straightaway that's not so straight, but you would think if you're on the inside line, it's curving to the right, it should be yours, but there's something about the outside line, and it's the run you get when it's a side-by-side battle that somehow that left-hand lane can hold with you and sometimes can just overtake you by themselves. I don't know what it is, something to do with the draft, something to do with the curvature of the track, but it's not as complete of a win or a position as you would think heading to the line. But kudos to Jaden Francisco and the RPM guys who did incredible all weekend and had his head down all the way to the line there. A well-deserved win for him and a bit of a fan favorite one as well.
Well, that's the thing, Nate, about the front stretch is the outside lane is the preferred line when you're normally racing it, correct? You don't go to the inside of the curving front straightaway. You stay on the outside set up for turn 1. The only time you really cut down towards the inside is when you're kind of trying to race to the line. And so I almost think it was just an amazing run. I think Francisco kind of did the over under because again, Macha ran defensive into the final corner. And I think Francisco just held back and let him do his, inside to outside, then back to the inside, which slowed up his pace just enough for Francisco to just roll around on the outside. But I mean, do we need to get the Mythbusters out there to kind of see which lane is shorter than the other to get to the line?
Yeah, and I mean, looking back at the video, when Macha comes through, starts celebrating like at the exit of the corner, which
right.
But he also loses a lot of momentum by going to that inside line where Jaden Francisco is able to hold that wheel straight and go around the outside. And it's not like Santiago Orleoli or the drivers behind were affecting that too much. There were no pushes or shoves given, so you can't use that. But I just think it was Maxwell Macha cutting to the inside so early after tracking out there that might have hurt him.
Yeah, just lost the momentum coming out of the last corner, and all the momentum went towards Francisco's way. Because as you said, I didn't think I saw anybody pump drafting either one across the line because I don't think they were quite close enough, but they were right there in case something did happen between the top two. So Francisco picking up the victory over Macha. So Nitro Kart, Sodi Kart, Kart Republic in third with Santiago Orleoli, Nitro Kart in fourth with Parker Ives, and then the LN Racing Kart with Mini Swift rookie Lawrence Perriman in the 5th position. So actually we had 3 of the top 5 are mini rookies, including Francisco, Orlioli, and Perriman. So a great way to start off the year for the top 5. Again, obviously not the way Macho wanted to see the results end up, but still a good weekend in total for him to start the year off. Let's head into Micro Swift presented by Team Ferris Racing, and the headline is
Howard celebrates in Daytona victory lane.
And again, with Zane Burgess graduating up to the Mini Swift, the Micro Swift category is kind of wide open. We saw some drivers kind of stand out through the winter months and the winter programs, but really no favorite, no driver you're like, that kid's going to win Micro Swift. So this was kind of a fun watch category because you weren't really sure who was going to come out on top. And that's kind of how it transcribed or played out throughout the weekend. Alvaro Medeiros picked up the fast time in qualifying in his Orsilon Tony Kart, a 42.674, but it was Leo Simoni picking up the opening heat race wins ahead of Hudson Howard and Slate Harrell. And then in the 3rd heat race, it was Lennox Lockhart picking up the win ahead of Marcelo Flores. So with Flores picking up top 3 results, he was promoted to the pole position for the main event alongside Lockhart, with Hudson Howard and Slate Harrell in the 2nd row. And then Anastasio, I don't have his first name. I forgot to write that down. Number 43. Nate, do you remember his first name?
I do not, unfortunately.
Apologize for that. I do remember his number, 43. I think he was on a Brill Art as well, too. So, or possibly Parolin. So as the race started, it was Lockhart to the lead early. Eventually, Flores put himself into the top spot. It was lap 16, however, where he pushed a little bit wide, like you talked about with the Masters category. Anytime you get a little bit outside the groove and where the marbles are, it'll kind of take you towards the grass. That's essentially what happened to Flores. He pushed wide. That opened up the door for Lockhart and Howard to come through. And it was Howard that took control of the race and was able to hold off Lockhart at the line, winning by 71 thousandths of a second. It was Simoni in the 3rd position, Slate Harwell in 4th on the Nitro Kart, and then Brody Stoffel in the Kart Republic finishing in 5th. So we had 3 Kart Republics, a Sodi Kart and Nitro Kart in the top 5. And Nate, Hudson Howard picking up a victory and celebrating in Daytona victory lane, something his dad, Jay Howard's never been able to do.
Yeah, so Hudson will be able to hold that one over his dad for probably the rest of his life at that point, knowing how competitive racers are. But it's super cool for Hudson. Personally, being able to see him just become the driver he is at the Route 66 Sprint Series last season, and going from like a mid-pack driver at a regional to being able to be up front at a national field like this is incredible for him, and just shows how much work that they've put in. And the Jay Howard driver development crew have done a ton for that team over the past couple of months, obviously with them being formed and pretty much dominating in Orlando in most of the classes they ran in. So very, very cool for Hudson Howard. He's going to be one that a lot of us have our eyes on for more wins and championships going forward in 2025.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how this class shapes up. I see a lot of different winners possibly in the future for this category throughout the season. You know, as we talked about, Flores has already picked up wins in the winter program, Dutch Westbrook. And then I'm trying to think who else was Leo Simoni has already picked up wins. So a lot of others picking up wins. Hudson won at Florida Winter Tour. So again, a lot of drivers I expect to see winning in this category throughout 2025. With that, let's head to our final commercial break. And when we return, we'll wrap it up and get into our Constructors Championship and EKN Trackside Live race calendar.
Check out any major national karting event, and what's the common thread? Speed Concepts Racing. Up front, in every class, every weekend. The Speed family has been at the forefront of American karting for over 25 years, and Speed Concepts Racing is the sole dedication of Father Mike Speed and his multi-time championship-winning son Alex Speed. This program is all about passion for the sport and a dedication to winning. They know how to get it done. If you're a senior driver ready to put yourself amongst the best in the country, Speed Concepts Racing is the program for you. We can win the big races. You just need to be in the seat. The Speeds program has delivered time over time in the junior classes as well, helping to elevate a long list of young drivers from mid-pack to potential race winners. Speed Concepts Racing has the perfect equation of coaching, driver development, and technical knowledge to elevate your program. Arrive and drive opportunities are available for the remainder of the 2023 season, and we're locking in seats for 2024 as well. If you're ready to take your career to the next level, contact Speed Concepts Racing through email at speedconceptsracing@gmail.com. Wins at the sport's biggest races, as well as championships across all levels of karting, pack the resume for Nitro Kart. The Nitro Kart brand has made its statement as the best, fastest, and most reliable cadet chassis on the North American karting market. If you want to win in cadet, both in 2-cycle and 4-cycle competition, get a Nitro Kart and join the team. Team Nitro Kart will be at all major events, trackside with Ryan Perry Motorsport, the official race team. Owner Ryan Perry and his RPM operation carries the full selection of Nitro Kart chassis and parts, while also providing the same driver development focus as Nitro Kart owner Nick Tucker. You can also join the Team Nitro Kart race team at all major 4-cycle races this season. Led by longtime Nitro Kart tuner Cody Johnson, Team Nitro Kart will be at all the major Cup Karts North America events with arrive and drive opportunities available for all ages. Nitro Motorsports is a true karts-to-karts driver development program that is already gaining success after launching in 2022. Victories and championships in the Trans Am Series has highlighted the team's start, along with the success in the new GR Cup by Toyota. Current and former karters can take advantage of this unique ladder system with Nitro Kart and Nitro Motorsports. Visit Nitro Kart online and find them on social media. Nitro Kart, race one or chase one.
And welcome back to our final segment of the EKN Debrief, episode 146. In this show presented by Franklin Motorsports, we are recapping the United States Pro Kart Series Daytona Super Grand Prix. I'm David Cole, joined by Nate Dean. We are now into our wrap-up, which includes, unfortunately, one red flag and a couple of flips on the weekend. So overall, a relatively safe weekend, but we did see some drivers due to contact kind of going over. We saw a lot of two wheels, that's for sure. We might have had one injury, I think, with the X30 flip, a possible separated shoulder. So other than that, no major injuries. Everybody able to walk away. All drivers did walk away from their incidents, but the one red flag was in the Micro Swift. It was in the main event, wasn't it? I didn't even talk about that.
It was main event final lap.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think Lockhart had just taken the lead too, didn't he, when they came to the red flag. So forgot about that in the race report. You got to remind me that, Nate.
I got the red flag too. So
yeah. Again, everybody walked away. So again, no major injuries to speak of, but again, I think, it could have been worse, because with the grip level that was out there and a lot of two wheels we did see, we could have saw a few more flips occur on the weekend. So all in all, not bad, but definitely anytime you race at Daytona, it is a unique atmosphere, and that's what it was for USPKS. I think, Nate, you said it perfectly. It felt weird being there and having the entire facility to ourselves. It didn't seem like normal Daytona, but it seems it was something new and something fresh. Definitely warmer than certain WK Daytona kart weeks.
Yes.
So it definitely had a unique feel to the weekend.
Yeah, it was. I mean, a lot of drivers have either been to, Kart Week, where there's a lot more going on throughout the speedway, or the 500. Supercross races, the 24 hours, the Daytona, where, the entire track and the outside of it was bustling with activity. And then to come to this weekend, not to say it was barren or anything, because obviously USPKS does an incredible job setting that atmosphere, dressing up the track to make it feel like a big event, like you're not just in a speedway all alone. But it was different than what we were used to. And even afterwards, doing the podiums and going into Victory Lane, talking with one of my friends that we were heading to Victory Lane, and it's like, I've never been at Daytona with it this quiet. It's because, again, nothing happening on track, no driver experiences, and just walking around, finding ourselves in Victory Lane. And pretty much the entire time throughout the weekend, I was like, I feel like I'm going to get yelled at by security for being here, but it was our track for the weekend. It was a super cool experience.
That was one note somebody said. They said the staff workers were definitely nicer this time around. Maybe the break between Christmas and New Year's, you get the grumpy workers. So, so that's a possibility, a good thing. It was a unique atmosphere. We had to delay our pictures in Victory Lane because they did have a tour going through at the same time. So, it's rare to see people from outside the sport being around. So we did get to see that a little bit. People who knew people in Florida, they came and watched and hung out there. There were some people from outside the sport watching. So again, it was something new and something unique for USPKS to do. And, they had to bring in a lot more staff, take care of a lot more things, be down there a lot earlier than you do with a typical race track that we go to. Because again, this is kind of like a temporary circuit, Nate, and the fact that it's not a regular racetrack, because all the walls, all the padding, everything is all getting removed now, or for other events that roll through, or it could be staying there until Cup Karts goes there later this year. So it was definitely unique. But one thing to focus on to wrap up the USPKS weekend, it's a best 3 of 4 championship in 2025. So they removed the 5th event and made it a best 3 out of 4 races for the championship in all 7 categories. So Nate, that could be quite interesting coming down to the wire, because there could be somebody who wasn't in Daytona that could come back out and try and get the championship in their respective category.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the kind of thrill of drop racing. Sometimes you can have, you think you have a really good idea of what the championship's going to look like after round 1, and then a whole new host of drivers come in after the second round and throw that out the window. Obviously, we know Trackhouse has a incredible local community that race there, and more drivers being more comfortable with Trackhouse, so maybe wanting to avoid a track that they've never been to, just use that as a drop, and then do the Trackhouse Road America Newcastle schedule with that. A lot of the North American karters will have experience at those race circuits. So could be interesting to see if we have a couple of drivers that show up for Trackhouse, a couple of locals that show up that have good weekends and decide to run the entire season and throw a wrench in the works.
Or those who didn't quite get to the results they wanted in Daytona, they have the opportunity to use it as a drop race. We did see, Masters drivers a couple of drivers have a bad main event. A Brandon Lemke didn't quite get the result he wanted to in KA Senior. Some others, Caden McQueen didn't quite have the performance he wanted to in Daytona, but you got to expect him to be right there when we get to Trackhouse for sure. So again, drivers can use this as their drop weekend. So that's going to be an interesting thing to kind of follow along as the championship goes on towards August. Let's head into our Constructors Championship, where we have 4 brands winning in the 7 categories. Nate, give us a breakdown of the 4 brands.
Yeah, so the Tony Kart brand itself getting 4 victories, and then the other 3 getting victories, all split at 1. You have Cosmic, Nitro Kart, and Kart Republic all taking wins.
Yeah, not quite as diverse as we've seen the rest of the year. or earlier in the year. So maybe we'll see that kind of spread out as the year goes along. But again, when you only have 7 categories, not a lot to pick from. So the EKN Trackside Live race calendar presented by Comet Kart Sales. History, success, family. These are 3 words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located outside Indianapolis and has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their brand new updated online store features everything you need, and they are continually adding new parts to their product line. Make sure you head to cometkartsales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. Nate, up next weekend, myself and Rob Howden, we're going to be heading to the Speed Sports Racing Park in New Caney, Texas for the opening round of the 2025 Superkarts USA Pro Tour as the Winter Nationals heads to the Lone Star State.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to watch. Obviously, there's a lot of storylines going into this one, with the SCUSA Winter Series having some incredible turnouts throughout all classes, especially X30 Pro compared to what we saw, unfortunately, at USPKS, but still have more of that culminating story from Daytona, though a lot of the drivers will be there at Speed Sports, and it's a great facility. Hopefully you see a lot of the TSRS faithful come out and fill those classes up. No, I think they've been running out of room in a couple of the classes. I think KA Senior and KA Junior might have sold out.
KA Senior and KA Junior both sold out. The Mini Swift is likely to sell out soon. And Pro Shifter is going to be massive as well too. So it's going to be a big one. I think 250 is the total they're at right now. So again, with the they're not having KA Masters, so 8 categories racing this year, dropping KA 100 Masters for the season due to low numbers. So that is the storyline from there. So we saw 283 or 2. It was in the 280s, I believe, for the SCUSA Winter Series opener in January. So that could be the number set for the Winter Nationals. We'll have to dig and see what the kind of the records are for Pro Tour in terms of numbers at the Winter Nationals as a whole. And then we'll have a month off for trackside coverage as me and Rob Howden will be back trackside again on April 25th through the 27th. The Challenge of the Americas returning back to the Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California. That'll be rounds 5 and 6 of the 8-round championship program on the western half of the country. April in Sonoma, you don't quite know what you're going to get. I know we've been there during March Madness, so kind of the beginning part of April. So what I'm hoping for is no rain and very comfortable weather. But Nate, that's not always the what you get. You know, we did luck out in Florida. I will say that. Now, no rain while we were in Daytona, so that was good until everything was done. So I think the 2025 streak is going on where we don't have any major races or any major on-track action with rain. That's a pretty good start to 2025 for that.
It's a good start, but you just know it's going to be one of those dry years, and then there's going to be the one weekend where it's just relentless rain. So it's not looking forward to whatever that is, but still, I'm sure a lot of the teams and drivers are happy they don't have to go home and start to dry out all the clothes and whatnot.
No, they're not drying out. They're actually washing everything because everything got so dusty in Daytona. So maybe we did need a little bit of overnight rain in Daytona to kind of wash things down. But after that weekend, we'll be heading to the United States Pro Kart Series Carolina Grand Prix at the Trackhouse Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina on the May 2nd through 4th weekend. It will be my 22nd wedding anniversary on that Saturday. So lots to celebrate while in Mooresville, North Carolina, as I think I've missed about half of my anniversaries due to having a race on the opening weekend of May. But, you know, when you think May, you don't think racing, right, Nate? You think, that's a great time to get married.
Yeah, apart from the Indy 500 and everything else going on.
Yeah, they only call it the
course.
month of May for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's going to be an exciting weekend, like we talked about already throughout the show. We should see some big numbers that weekend. So again, another race over the 200 mark. Hopefully we'll get up closer to that 250 mark again as well. So yeah, looking forward to getting back to USBKS action in the month of May at Trackhouse Motorplex of Mooresville, North Carolina. So Nate, any final words as we wrap up this show for the USBKS Daytona Super Grand Prix?
If any of the executives from Daytona International Speedway are listening, please pave the roads. I don't want to get sandblasted for an entire weekend next time. Thank you.
Yes, that could be a possibility. That obviously was the most notable complaint. The president of Daytona International Speedway, Frank. Can I see? I'm terrible with names. I just wrote an email to him. Was in attendance on Saturday. Came and checked it out. He's a former karter, so he knows karting. Knows the sport. Frank Keller. There we go. Frank Keller. Right. So he got to check it out, talk to Mark. I think it was Friday actually that was there. Talked to Mark Coates and some other people. Actually knows Mike Doty very well. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, certainly got a lot of feedback from a lot of the teams and competitors there. Got to see the USBKS in action firsthand. So again, a lot of positives, a lot of uniqueness when we talk about this event for the USBKS at Daytona. So again, that wraps up our show, our EKN debrief for the first event for 2025 in the USBKS program. So for Nate Dean, I'm David Cole. Thank you for listening, and until next time.